I am Lucas from G4. I work in the partnerships team. And before we start the forum officially with a welcoming speech by our new commissioner, we will have two presentations by partnerships. The first one will be from Innovative Health. We have Magali Poineau here, who is the leader of the governance cell from the Innovative Health Partnership. She will briefly and also elaborately explain a bit more her partnership and what they do and everything that she would like to share with you here. We will keep this very much timed because we have the commissioner arriving at 2. So you have 7 minutes for your presentation, and I welcome you to stage. And I thank you already for being here and doing the presentation.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll try to be as fast as possible and to give a clear presentation. So, as mentioned, I represent the Innovative Health Initiative. So this is a European partnership between the European Union and the industry sector, the health industry sector. So it means that we do not only have this partnership between the pharmaceutical industry, but right now we also involve the medical devices industry, the medical technology industry, the diagnostic industry. So it's very important to have a one single approach and to make sure they can all work together. This partnership is not only, as you can imagine, not only to bring together the public and the private sectors, but also to make sure that we have all the different representatives from the private sector around the same table, tackling same challenges. It's very important. So as part of our members, so we have FPI from the pharma industry, we have COSIR from the medical technology, we have MedTech from the medical devices, Vaccine Europe, which is part of FPI from the vaccine, and of course it's important not only to have the big players from the industry sector, but also to have the small players. So what are different objectives? So as mentioned, as highlighted on this slide, so you see we have 3 big general objectives in relation to IHI. The first one, of course, is to make sure that we can deliver safe, effective health innovation that will impact on the healthcare system, but also that will have an impact for the patient and the society and any citizens in Europe. One of the second objective, which is really important, and I already mentioned that, it's making sure that any innovation that will develop in this European partnership can have a real benefit for the patient and for the citizen. And last but not least, IHI being a public-private partnership, it's also very important to make sure that we contribute to the EU industry competitiveness. And these different general objectives are translated in specific objectives. So I won't go through this specific objective, but as I will mention that at the end of my presentation, we will be launching in January a new call, an open call, a bottom-up call, and it will be our single stage call 9, and you will see it's based on this specific objective. So in order to answer to this call, it's very important to understand these different specific objectives. So, but how do we do that? So IHI is part of Horizon Europe. So of course, we launch call for proposal. And our objective is to bring together different stakeholders. I've already mentioned that. I will repeat that again and again. And also different sectors together. And making sure that we deliver clear impact. So on the society, for the patient, for the European competitiveness, for the industry, and for the scientific community. And as a main principle, as part of Horizon Europe, anybody can participate in IHI. We just make a dissociation between participation and eligibility for funding. I won't enter into detail right now. You have all the information on our website. But globally speaking, so any entity established in a member state or a country associated to Horizon Europe can participate. Can be eligible for funding. So here is an example of the different manner we involve the different healthcare stakeholders. So claims, to give this example, aim to develop a diagnostic platform that would offer clinicians a holistic overview of the multiple sclerosis patient and they hope to validate this platform and to submit it to the medicine regulator for approval. So we can see clearly here the impact for the healthcare system and healthcare professional and also for the patient. Now, in terms of involvement of the different industry sectors, I will be highlighting this example of Imago project that I've just started, focusing on interventional oncology. So interventional oncology will spare healthy cells from the toxic effect of many treatments, and they will use miniaturized instruments such as biopsy needles, and they will be inserted into the patient's body via minimally invasive access routes. So we can really see here the benefit for the patient, and it will also, and for their health, and not only, it's also the mental health. So, an important element as part of Horizon Europe, we all have to contribute to the EU health priority for NNI. I won't go through all of them, but you can see mostly we have to contribute to the concert mission and the European concert victim plan. Of course, we have also to contribute to the Green Deal strategy. We will be launching in January a call on PFAS, so it's an important element. We all know that it's in Europe and not only in Europe. So, and last but not least, we contribute to a digital AI strategy. So here in the next slide, so you can see an example on how we contribute to the mission concept through the different projects we already launched, either in the preceding initiatives, the Innovative Medicine Initiative, and now under the Innovative Health Initiative. And here, this is a very concrete example. So Eden make a large-scale analysis of health data in Europe, in reality, with collecting data for 100 million of data of EU citizens. And they have already developed a federated data network accessible in a standardized manner. So these data remain under the control and the complete control of the original data owner. And we can see that it's in the previous slide. So that it really helps for the clinician, for the healthcare system, but it also helps the European Medicine Agency in validating some medicine. And last but not least, I will skip the previous slide. So as I mentioned, so we will be launching in January 2 calls. One, which will be a bottom-up call, the call 9, with the objective to answer to any of the specific objective of IHI. And really, the idea is to collect information or ideas, proposal we haven't thought about so far. And we would like to make sure that we have all the scientific community answering to this call. Of course, it means that you will have to prepare a consortium together with industry partners. You can find all our information on our website. And then we have a second call, which will be the call 10, which will be a 2-stage call, which is more a bottom-up, a top-down call, which focusing on the secondary use of health data, on PFAS, and on the digital labeling. But if you have any other idea, we have also this idea incubator platform where you can submit any idea. This will be reviewed by our scientific advisory panel, and then it will be assessed by the Commission and industry, whether industry will be in a position to gather resources and contribute with in-kind contribution. Any information, I'm here today, tomorrow. You have the website of IHI. You can also contact us via email. And I already thank you and wish you a great conference.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to welcome Hugo Tiampon, who will be presenting the Photonics Partnerships.
How do I proceed here? Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation. I'm briefly going to explain you the flagship of the Photonics 21 partnership, which is Photon Hub. It's a pan-European ecosystem for closing the photonics innovation gap. I think you all know photonics is a key enabling technology, making sure that we have applications like optical telecom, photovoltaics, LED lighting and displays. But very recently, photonics is now also penetrating very important industry sectors for Europe, like space and defense, automotive, mobility, industry 5.0, agriculture, food, health, and ICT. And if those companies who don't know much about photonics want to innovate with the key enabling technology, then they need support along the entire innovation valley of death. That means from idea to feasibility to prototyping, upscaling and manufacturing. But not only in technology and deep support in technology, but also in business and investment, they need support. And finally, also in training and reskilling. So we set up a pan-European one-stop shop photonics innovation hub, which received 19 million euros from the European Commission in order to provide that innovation support. Now, the first thing you have to know, if you want to support companies, you have to listen to their challenges, okay? Typically, companies don't have problems, they only have challenges, and technology push doesn't help. So what to do? Well, we have a 3-step action plan. The first is to reach out to the companies and listen to their challenges. Secondly, once we have understood those challenges, then we send a technology and a business scout in order to further explore the technology support that they need, but also the business plans where we can help them out. We appoint a project leader. We have then an evaluation process of the project with milestones and deliverables, and then we really go for it and apply the deep innovation support financed by this project. At the end of the prototyping or upscaling project, we measure customer satisfaction and do impact measurement, which is really important. So there are about 8 technology platforms that we use in order to support companies, either one platform or a combination of the platforms. Each of those platforms, of course, support the full supply chain from design to prototyping, metrology, quality support, and then finally industrial prototyping. And if we need to scale up, also the pilot lines in photonics are part of the Photon Hub initiative. But technology support is one thing, investment is also what those companies need, whether they're startups or scale-ups or just SMEs that want to bring their technology to the market. And so we have an investment readiness program. We help the companies with pitching for investors. We organize European Photonics Venture Forum, where all those investors and companies meet, and then they can start investing. So we have been helping more than 100 companies so far from all industry sectors. These are the 4 main KPIs. 100 innovating companies have been supported. We have increased their revenues with 750 million euros, based, of course, on the innovation support that we supplied. We increased the number of jobs, high-tech jobs, with about 1,000 because of these actions. And there's more than 250 million euros that were invested by the VCs. Okay, so here you see a couple of those successes in the news. Acetonics, 2.5 million euros. Ipronics, 3.7 million euros. I Love, 5 million euros. So a lot of money goes from the VCs into those startups after we de-risked them. The final thing we need to do, because the good news is we can continue with Photon Hub until 2029, is, of course, we're going to support the SMEs with further deep tech support from TRLs 2 to TRL 7, but we are mainly going to focus on the launch path for startups and especially on this, trying to bridge the innovation gap between TRLs 5 and 6, because there a lot of the companies stop their innovation and don't go to the market, and we'd like to help them out with VC funding and make sure that the manufacturing happens in Europe. So my 2 take-home messages are the following. First of all, Photon Hub is a unique collaborative pan-European innovation ecosystem with measurable high-value impact supported by our Photonics 21 platform. And secondly, regional funding, of course, is not enabling this kind of cross-border innovation support. We're really grateful to the Commission for supporting this, because it's only with EU funding that this type of cross-border innovation can happen. Thank you.
So, thanks a lot for those 2 presentations. Very interesting. And I can now tell you that all our keynote speakers and welcome speaker have arrived. So without further ado, we will wait for them to come in, and then we will officially start this annual forum. So please bear with us. for some minutes. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. Dear guests, dear colleagues, welcome to this year's annual conference on European Partnership Stakeholders. It's a great pleasure to see you all there. It's my pleasure to welcome you this afternoon and to introduce our guest speakers for the kickoff of our meeting. I will first give the floor to our Commissioner for Startups, Research and Innovation. Commissioner, it's a great honor that you are making us with your first public appearance this afternoon for us. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Pauline. She was very helpful for me while preparing for the hearing. Mr. Gorish is an excellent expert, and I'm really happy to be here with you, dear Mr. Gori, dear Deputy State Secretary Mr. Bodis, dear ladies and gentlemen. As Pauline just said, this is my first public engagement as Commissioner, and I'm really happy to be here today with you. The EU is entering a new political cycle with strong ambition for R&I, marked by Draghi and a month later, as far as I remember, Hato reports. And dear ladies and gentlemen, I really think that we have a big window of opportunity. And President von der Leyen emphasized last week that closing the innovation gap is at the center of the new competitiveness compass, and it will guide the work of the new Commission. A strong research and innovation union will be at the center of my mandate, and I will focus on 5 priorities. And I will need your support for each of them. First priority is strengthening research ecosystems. Research is the basis of our long-term innovation capacity. We must promote the right conditions for our researchers, attractive careers, cutting-edge infrastructure, and a flow of talent and technologies. This will be the goal of our new European Research Area Act. It will include giving a boost to our 3% GDP target for R&I, which was agreed, I think, 22 years ago, and still not there. It will also promote better coordination of national research frameworks, because 27 different frameworks and strategies do not make a good European one. Our partnerships demonstrate that coordinated action delivers results. I can quote here, for example, our world-class network of European supercomputers, including 3 of the fastest in the world thanks to EuroHPC. This leads me to my second priority, moving EU innovation forward. Many in this room are familiar with difficulties in commercializing innovation in Europe. Every startup leaving Europe represents a loss, and we must stop this innovation drain and increase and improve access to capital. Achieving the 3% GDP target goes with increasing private investment. Our company's share of R&I investment to GDP is half that of US. My message to the business is clear. R&I investment will determine tomorrow's economy, industry, and competitiveness. Partnerships are already mobilizing 40 billion euros in addition to EU funding, with 65% from industry. Some, like Made in Europe and innovative SMEs, help startups and SMEs commercialize in the EU. We must also ensure that our R&I tools, including partnerships, are attractive to SMEs and startups. In this line, I will present a startup and scale-up strategy and organize a dedicated forum next year. Third, a better focus in key technologies. As Mr. Draghi pointed out, Europe cannot afford to remain in the middle technology trap. Our efforts must focus on areas with disruptive potential, building on competitive advantage from green technologies to biotech and productivity-enhancing digital tech. We witnessed the power of focused efforts for the rapid development of COVID vaccines, for example. For partnerships, focus also means strengthening their portfolio without duplications. And while streamlining efforts on the Horizon Europe was a step forward, we must ask ourselves, can a portfolio of 60 partnerships deliver the strategic alignment Europe needs today? My fourth priority will be building an inclusive research and innovation union. The latest partnership performance report shows that most implements measures to ensure gender balance. But as R&I community, we have still lots of work to do. Women outnumber men at graduate levels, but only hold 1 in 4 of the highest academic position. This is not due to the lack of talent, but to structural barriers. Next year, I will present an action plan on women in R&I. Initiatives will include ensuring safer workplace, working to achieve gender balance in all Horizon-related boards, working groups, evaluation committees, and expert groups, and promoting gender research. Here too, I will really need your commitment. My final priority will be to deliver an ambitious successor to Horizon Europe. The future of partnerships will be discussed during this conference. For 20 years, they have been a key tool, and I will ensure that they maintain a central role. But we must have the courage to change approaches when necessary. In particular, simplification will be a key priority, to spend less time to navigating the red tape. Researchers must do research, innovators must do innovation, not to spend half of their time for reporting or drafting the applications or other unnecessary requirements, sometimes unnecessary requirements. So I really encourage you in the next 2 days to reflect on issues like governance, implementation, and flexibility of the partnerships. Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, these are my 5 priorities: research, innovation, focus, inclusion, and preparing the next framework program. Their successes will also depend on you. And I'm looking forward working with you. So thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, dear Commissioner, for expressing very clearly your priorities. It's now my pleasure to welcome on stage Mr. Gori, member of the European Parliament and Vice President of the ITRE Committee. Mr. Gori, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Tsarieva, dear Ekaterina, Deputy State Secretary bodies, dear colleagues. It is a great honor and a pleasure to be here with you today on behalf of the European Parliament's Committee on Industry, Research and Energy, particularly on the 20th anniversary of European partnerships. European partnerships play an important role in linking research and innovation to policy needs, thus contributing to the EU's strategic objectives, namely accelerating the transition toward a green, climate-neutral and digital Europe, while tackling societal challenges, creating jobs and strengthening the resilience and competitiveness of European industries. Their role is also key to achieving EU strategic autonomy, enabling the Union to pursue its interests and values without undue over-reliance and dependence on resources and capabilities of external actors. EU open strategic autonomy requires collaboration, coordination, and synergies across various external and internal policies within the Union. To name few, partnerships like the one on battery, on clean steel, on transforming the industrial processes are very relevant in light of the current economic and industrial scenario. Almost 65 billion has been committed to European partnerships launched between 2021 and 24. Almost 25 billion from Horizon Europe and 35.6 billion from the partners other than Union, out of which almost 65% comes from industry. Even if this represents a success, we believe that the scope and the EU budget for partnerships should be further boosted. During last term, the European Parliament was involved in implementing the European partnerships on metrology, the CHIPS joint undertaking, the European high-performance computing joint undertaking, and the main package establishing 9 joint undertakings under Horizon Europe. We consider the involvement of the Parliament an added value to be maintained in the future. We hope that this year forum, like the one of 2022 and 2023, can represent a fruitful opportunity for the entire partnership community to exchange information and experiences, especially on implementation aspects, to share and identify good examples of partnerships in creating synergies and, last but not least, to reflect on the future of partnerships. The next step will be indeed the next framework program that can represent an opportunity to further strengthen the European research development and innovation ecosystem, also through a reinforced role for European partnerships. The Letta and Draghi reports, and more specifically, the so-called ATO report, include general and specific recommendations on accelerating innovation and building new engines for growth, and on the next framework program. The ITRE committee is also currently working on a draft report assessing the implementation of Horizon Europe and giving recommendations for next program. If how to strengthen Horizon, a successor and its structure is still to be discussed, two things are clear. We advocate for a substantially higher budget that would be sufficient for achieving the 3% GDP spending target and for better alignment of EU and national funding and policies. Second, we want it to remain a standalone EU program dedicated to EU research excellence. This is key to fill the competitiveness gap that we have with countries like the US and China. Another thing is also evident. In order to achieve true economic and societal impacts, we need to work further on ensuring administrative simplification, on openness, transparency, and accessibility, and to develop synergies and coordination by improving dedicated fora and meeting places for regular exchange like today's one. To conclude, we look forward to working with the Commission on the further development of partnerships under the next framework program, and I wish productive outcomes and learnings from this two-day stakeholder forum event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gori. It's now time to call for our third speaker for the kickoff of the conference, Mr. Deputy State Secretary for Innovation, Mr. Bodis, for the Hungarian presidency. Thank you.
Dear Commissioner, dear distinguished guests, dear ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor to address you today as we discuss the vital role of European partnerships in advancing scientific and societal progress. These partnerships are not only a testament to the power of collaboration, but also a strategic cornerstone in addressing some of the most pressing global and European challenges. The Hungarian presidency fully agrees on the European added value of research and innovation collaborations. To increase the competitiveness of the European Union, it is essential that we connect talents and innovation hubs. Increasing the competitiveness of the EU and reinforcing R&I collaborations were among the top priorities of the Hungarian presidency of the Council of the European Union. In line with these priorities, as you might know, research ministers in the frame of the Competitiveness Council has adopted last week the Council conclusions on strengthening the competitiveness of the EU, reinforcing the European research area, and overcoming its fragmentation. We consider that any future efforts aiming to increase the Union's competitiveness in terms of research and innovation has to be addressed in line with the approved conclusions. As a representative of the Council of the European Union, I can also tell you that the topic of partnerships has generated extensive discussions lately. Their importance is proven by the fact that currently, as we already heard, we have more than 50 European partnerships running. Regarding their funding, an amount of 24.9 billion euros is secured from Horizon Europe, while 38.6 billion euros is secured from either member states or industry resources. Both the studies and our own experiences can highlight several merits of European partnerships, such as the following three. First, European partnerships generate enhanced collaboration across stakeholders by creating platforms for long-term collaboration among public and private entities. European partnerships are also outstanding in leveraging resources to address common challenges that individual entities or member states could not tackle alone. Second, European partnerships can align research and innovation efforts with strategic EU objectives, including the green and digital transitions, while reducing overlaps and fostering coherence in funding initiatives. However, their role as a policy instrument could be further emphasized. Dedicated EU-level funds and flexibility to address emerging challenges will be vital to their success. Third, European partnerships have demonstrated the ability to mobilize significant financial commitments with substantial contribution from EU funding, member states, and private partners as well. This ensures a critical mass of resources to support transformative research and innovation projects. Nevertheless, a greater focus could be dedicated to trust building and attracting investments. On the other hand, we have also experienced several challenges of European partnerships. I will mention three here as well. First and foremost, most complaints focus on their complex governance and setup. Certain European partnerships require lengthy preparation processes, which can delay implementation and hinder flexibility. So we need more simplification and transparency to reach their full potential. Second challenge is the European partnerships demand high levels of coordination, monitoring, reporting, which can impose administrative burdens on stakeholders and potentially divert resources from core research and innovation activities. We definitely need simplification in this area as well. Simplified and harmonized rules, alignment of procedures, and the use of unified IT platforms could be essential directions for further discussions. Third, it is also visible that participation significantly varies among member states and associated countries. There are significant disparities with regard to their involvement. Some countries are playing more active roles as coordinators and major contributors, while others are still lagging behind, reflecting differing national priorities and capacities. Therefore, we need further steps to realize balanced participation in these strategic partnerships. Otherwise, the principle of effective collaboration could be damaged. As we are turning soon to the negotiations of the next multi-annual framework, several member states argued to take a deeper look on European partnerships. Some argue to limit their number and focus on those which are more relevant for the objectives of the European research area. Some advocate for strengthening synergies, linkages, and teaming up of European partnerships with other MFF, national and regional programs. Some argue that the involvement of relevant stakeholders is needed from the very early stage. On the other hand, we also think that if there is a strong bottom-up initiative, it should be taken seriously. Partnerships should also focus on long-term financing, openness, impact, and political commitment while avoiding initiative proliferation and overlaps. Co-creation among member states, the European Commission, and industry is critical, ensuring buy-in and long-term commitments. The upcoming FP10 provides an excellent opportunity to address these challenges. Additionally, there is an urgent need to share and use the results to maximize their societal impacts. To sum up, we can confirm that continuing partnerships are crucial to address future European challenges. However, focusing on fewer priorities and fostering collaboration among policy, research, and business could be key points for further discussions. Let us commit today and tomorrow to remove barriers and foster collaboration and ensuring that partnerships remain a cornerstone of the European research and innovation area. I wish you fruitful conversations that can contribute to reducing the fragmentation of the European research area and, of course, ultimately to boosting European competitiveness. Thank you for your attention.
Dear Commissioner, dear ITRE Vice Chair, dear Deputy State Secretary, thank you very much for your welcoming addresses. It's an honor to have you here today. This marks the opening of our third edition of the conference, and we will now, with our participants, go to a panel discussion where we will discuss the achievements and the successes of the partnerships for the past years of Horizon Europe and the past 20 years. Thanks a lot for your attendance and for your keynote speeches. Thank you. So we will now have our first panel discussion for our conference, which will be about 20 years of European partnerships, reflections and achievements. Just to give you the context of this first panel discussions, First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Fabienne Gauthier. I'm the head of the unit in charge of missions and partnerships. And I will be moderating the session today, and I will be also accompanying you and guiding you throughout these 2 days conference. So as we have heard in the previous keynote addresses, this year marks the 20th anniversary of the launch of the first partnerships, the so-called ERANET that we launched back in Framework Program 6, which is 20 years ago. For the last 2 decades, the European partnerships, as we could also hear, have contributed significantly to the development of the European research area. They have managed to mobilize and connect substantial resources across Europe to address common challenges, common priorities, both on the societal and economic realm. Especially in terms of enhancing transnational collaboration in research and in mobilizing national resources, partnerships have been key. Based on the last published BMR report, the report on the partnerships implementation that we published a couple of months ago, we could see that the total commitments from partners other than the Union reaches an amount of almost 39 billion euro for partnerships. Regarding the role of member states and associated countries, the national commitments to European partnerships to Horizon Europe also reach 15 billion euro. This for Horizon Europe is 3 times the 5.5 billion euro committed to joint calls in Horizon 2020 partnership. So we can witness a clear increase in funding dedicated to partnerships. With this background in mind, the purpose of the first panel discussion today is to discuss with our panelists success stories and also substantive achievements that happened with the partnerships in the past 20 years. And it is also to reflect on whether they are on the right course to achieve their goals, to have impact, and to contribute to the European research area and to reach their full potential. So for this panel, which I will chair and moderate for you today, it is my pleasure to invite 4 panelists on stage, and I will invite them to join the panel with me. First, I would like to welcome Daria Julbowska, who has an extensive knowledge and understanding of European funding schemes and programs, and also serves as the chair of the former expert group which issued the BMR report on partnerships this year. Welcome, Daria. She is also the scientist coordinator of the European Joint Programme on Rare Diseases and also responsible for the coordination of the IRC Scientific Secretariat. She has been involved in the rare diseases field since 2010. Welcome, Daria. For the panel of today, I would like to invite as a speaker Ms. Ute Gusenheimer, who began her engagement on 1st June 2021 with the European Open Science Cloud Association. She formally took on the role of the Secretary General on 1st November 2021 and has since then overseen the rapid development of this association, which is now reaching roughly 250 organizations across 38 countries. Welcome, Ms. Gusenheimer. I would also like to welcome Mr. Wolfgang Ballensiefen, who is coordinator of the European Partnerships for Personalized Medicine since 2023. From 2015 to 2023, Mr. Ballensiefen was coordinator of the ERANET co-fund action dedicated to cardiovascular diseases, the so-called ERA-CVD co-fund. Mr. Ballensiefen is a policy advisor also for health research topics and related funding measures at the European level and also at national level, primarily on behalf of the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research, BMBF, since 2000. Mr. Ballensiefen, welcome to our plenary discussion. And I would also like for this panel to welcome Rosalinde van der Vlies, who is Director of the Clean Planet Directorate in DG Research and Innovation. Before her appointment as a director, Ms. van der Vlies was Head of Coordination and Interinstitutional Relation Unit. She was also the acting head of the Communication and Citizens Unit, has been involved in has held positions in several Directorate General of the Commission, DG Environment, DG Justice and Home Affairs, and also in the private office of Mr. Potočnik, the former European Commission for Environment. Ms. van der Vlies, Rosalinde, welcome to our panel. So as I indicated in my introduction, the purpose of today is to take stock and to talk about the successes of the partnerships and also see the impact that the partnerships have had on our research and innovation landscape. So I will ask our panelists a number of questions on their partnerships and also on this on the challenges that they face and on the successes and the impacts of their partnerships. So my first question will be dedicated to Daria Julkowska. You have been involved in both editions of the biannual monitoring report on European partnerships, the BMR, which has its third edition today. And the BMR examines quantitative and qualitative evidence. So, Ms. Julkowska, now that we have a dedicated monitoring framework for partnerships in place, what do you see as the main progress of partnerships since the launch of Horizon Europe? And according to you, what has been the main impact on the European research and innovation landscape based on the findings and also on the experiences you have gathered with the last edition of the BMR report?
Thank you very much. So actually, well, I have some notes because there are so many things that actually can be mentioned, but I think that what we can demonstrate, and it's one of the most important things, first of all, is that there has been a major progress in terms of how the partnerships have been built, and the fact that there was a reduced number between Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe, also the reduced number of the partnerships, it really helped in enhancing the coherence and the strategy alignment. And this is something that we can see also through the analysis of in both BMRs. First of all, also at the national level. So we can clearly see that there is higher, and you were talking also about this, that there is higher investment from the member states, but also from the industry into the partnership. And I think that this is because of the fact that we can see them really now as clear strategic instruments. And that leads also to the alignment, for example, of the national strategies. We can clearly see that the majority of member states indicates now that there is a coherence, coordination of the national strategies together, an alignment with the partnerships. There are specific working groups that have been established at the national level to be able to better capture the participation of the member states or and countries in the partnership. So this is something we can really clearly see the shift. And when looking at the European, let's say the European dimension, we can also see that the partnerships are the instruments to better coordinate, to have a higher level of coordination of all at the research and innovation level. And this is something that takes stock of all the experience that we have accumulated over those 20 years in terms of the partnerships and all the instruments that were offered in the space. So we can see also that there is a clear, let's say, higher level of coordination and investment and the synergies between the different partnerships. So to summarize, I would say that clearly we can see today the partnerships are game changers. They are the instrument for better coherence coordination. They are the instruments for innovation and the competitiveness. And this is because of the fact that under one umbrella, they bring the scientific excellence, but also the business-oriented minds of public-private partnerships, and the policy and political and financial also capacity and willingness of the member states and of the European Commission.
Thank you. I would like now to ask a question to Ute Gusenheimer. The European Open Science Cloud is a co-programmed partnership established in 2021. So co-programmed partnership is one of the 3 types of partnerships that we have under Horizon Europe. A concrete example where the European Open Science Cloud has proven to be essential was in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Ms. Gusenheimer, can you explain what did the European Open Science Cloud partnership to contribute to dealing with the pandemic and how this was achieved? In what sense also did this public-private partnership achieve significant successes, had impact that would not have been possible by other means, which is one of the goals also of the partnerships, to be there when there are where there are no better means also to achieve our goals. So Ms. Gusenheimer, could you please?
Thank you very much for inviting me to this panel and also to your birthday party, because in fact the EOSC partnership is one of the youngest partnership and we are also a very young organization. So the EOSC association was only incorporated in 2020, so in the midst of the pandemic, and we became operational in fact as an association who represents the partner other than the union in the end of 2021. That means we had a partnership before we were even moving, so to speak. And thanks to the dreadful pandemic, on the other hand, the work around EOSC basically was accelerated. So on the one hand side, the work that we did in the association, and also here we are an outlier because our membership in the association is the academic community. We represent mainly research performing organizations from across Europe, research infrastructures and e-infrastructures. And that is different, I guess, from most of the other partnerships where there's a strong engagement of the commercial side. When it comes to the pandemic was there before the EOSC partnership was there, but it was, as I said, an accelerator because the COVID-19 portal was initiated by the Commission at that time, and it was our community, the research performing organization and the infrastructures who provided the input to that and facilitated it with research data. And in the end, it's all about sharing this research data in order to accelerate the developments, also in these cases of vaccines. And that is where it really made an impact even before the partnership was there. And that helped the case, of course, of the partnership as there was already a good practice. And going forward now, I mean, let's say the downside of that is also what it demonstrated, the COVID-19 portal or the pandemic was, it was the sharing of research data, but it was not the sharing of clinical data, because that was not possible at that point of time. And now we see the development in Europe, that Europe wants to establish the European Health Data Space, which will be implemented in national legislation, and then the sharing of also clinical data will be possible, and the secondary use for research. And this is then when we already see today where our pathway can go going forward in closely collaborating, for example, in the health domain with the European Health Data Space, and continue what has happened during COVID and learn from what didn't happen and then act on that for the future.
Thank you. And what, according to you, was essential with these partnerships compared to other means to have this impact during the pandemic?
To bring everyone together. So it was the community, because before the community was not organized, and now they're organized in this association, which are a really diverse community from the academic field. It was the collaboration with the member states although we have the member states formally only being an expert group of the Commission. However, we have, and that also took time and built the trust over time now, have a good collaboration with the Commission, with the member states and the community in this tripartite context that is less formalized as in institutional partnerships. And that, I think, is, I mean, thanks to all those very rapid developments, we were able to be today at a position where we already talk about the next steps, basically where we now create a federated infrastructures and how to govern that going forward.
Thank you. I will turn to Mr. Wolfgang Ballensiefen. Mr. Ballensiefen, the European Partnership for Personal Medicine is a co-funded partnership, and it builds on more than 15 years of experience in European consortia initiatives. Could you point out one concrete example where your partnership and its predecessors contributed with a focus on valorization of research results? And in that respect, what has been the main factor for success for this public-public collaboration?
Okay, first, thank you for the invitation, and thank you for being the only male on stage. So the commissioner had already some impact there. And please allow me, because that's 20 years, but I think there's no speech on the 20 years. So it's only speech on present and future. So as I'm a dinosaur in this context, because I'm in European partnerships since 2004. So the first one was I was partner in the ERA Age on aging research, and I have been part of the coordinator of the ERA CVD, as you said, which was a co-fund. And then I also was involved in the ERANet personalized medicine, and now it's the Partnership on Personalized Medicine. So just very briefly, I mean, it started all with coming together, member state funders and ministries, communicating, cooperating, aligning, learning from each other, how they do the funding, how they do get the impact going. So that was the beginning. And then it moved, and I'm not doing it for a long time, but then it moved from ERANet Plus, ERANet Co-Fund, EJP Rare Disease is one of the few, and we had JPIs, I'm not going to translate all that, most of you will know. So this is really huge. And I think these 20 years are a success story. I mean, in the end, and I will tell something about ERA permit as well, which is one of the most important basis for EP permit. So, and before I forget the answer, I think the success can only happen when you have common goals, you have common efforts, you have budget, but this is not the most important. You need openness, transparency, and some of the words came already. You need cooperation, communication, and trust, and maybe even more important, you need dedicated people. I would think that some of the partnerships will fall apart if 3 people who are really carrying this are going away. So this is really important. So this is just a prelude, sorry. Then about health is one part where the partnerships are very strong. But they have a lot of challenges there. But in case of the EP permit, I would say that there was a kind of an alignment and a joint activity from the Commission side, or from the European Union side, with the member states and the regions over the last 15 years. So there was the first TRIA published, which I think was the first TRIA in the context of health in 2015. And I think there's still 50% of the recommendations valid. So there's still a long way to go. And then there has been the council conclusions. They take on board the personalized medicine. And there are now the further developments. And the next step was the ERA permit. And when it comes, and you asked me for really output, impact, whatever you say. I think the challenge here is that you should never underestimate the kind of influence in terms of policy. So the ERA permit, the CSA permit 3 was actually inspiring not only the European Union and the Commission to do things together with the member states, but it also had, and it's very difficult to kind of put this down in KPIs or whatever you want, because a lot of regions, a lot of member states, they started with the SRIA and all these processes, these events, they started to put the personalized medicine concept, I would call it, on the agenda. So on the regional agenda, on the national agendas, and most of the partners from EP Permit, they have already also in parallel national activities running. So I think that's very important. And that's needed to consider when we talk about impact. But it's difficult to put it in numbers. But I also want to talk about numbers. So when we just have a look at the ERA permit, which was from 2017 to 2023, there were 5 calls, 1 co-funded call. They are funded on 111 consortia with 600 research groups internationally. They spent 130 million budget. From that budget, 9 million is from the Commission. So I think that's a really impressive leverage. Unfortunately, and that's my last point for this one, unfortunately the problem with the health sector is actually that we don't have these straightforward economic and market access things. And most of you know this. We have all the regulations. We need to get the approval by the competent authorities or the EMA, and then we need health economic assessments so that they don't kind of explode the healthcare system. And then we need providers and payers and patients that they really want to have these personalized approaches. So for the health cluster, it's maybe more challenging. And I would like to stop that I can say that with EP Permit, we have at the moment 59 partners, I would say over 90% funders and ministries. We have a very special situation because we also want to improve or get more impact in the end, because that's one of the challenge. So we have actually, as a partnership as a partner. So we have EIT Health as a partner in our partnership. So we try to learn from them, and they try to adapt to our needs so that we can actually further proceed and further accelerate the innovation steps and the implementation steps. And very last thing, sorry. We have already established an exchange, a biannual exchange between the health partnerships, and I really hope that, for example, EHE and the other partnerships, we can find ways where we can support in the different steps along for a better healthcare. Sorry, that was a bit longer.
No problem. I have an additional, just a small question again for you. You mentioned dedication, you mentioned also an impressive number of partners and achievements. According to you, would you think that you would have achieved the same impact, same results without a partnership, or or would this have been possible with other means, for instance? Or has the partnership here been key?
Well, I have to say the partnership is 1 year old, but we already have also lots of research funded, but that's the first step. But I think when I look back to the 15 years before, I think we would not be where we are if we didn't have that. Because a lot, as I said, a lot put this on the agenda, starting from the European Union Commission to the member states and the regions, and also researchers. I mean, actually personalized medicine comes bottom up from the research. And then actually the policy did take it on board, which is, I think, very special as well. So now we have to deliver for the patients and the people. I think definitely we would not be here or at the stage where we are when we had not the 15 years before.
Thank you. I will now turn to Rosalinde van der Vlies. Rosalinde, the Clean Planet Directorate oversees Cluster 5 on climate, energy and mobility, which currently features the largest number of partnerships with a mix of public-public partnerships and public-private collaborations. So how have these partnerships contributed to the green transition until now? And also, like for the other speakers, what have been the key achievements in the sector that could have not been accomplished through traditional calls or through other means?
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Fabienne, and thank you for the invitation. It's a big honor for me to be here, especially since I'm on stage with somebody who has been 20 years in the partnerships business already. I think that's really great. I'm working on the Clean Planet for 4 years now, and we have 9 partnerships. We have 4 in the energy field, and we have 6 in the, oh, that's actually 10. I'm really bad with numbers, in the mobility field. But before I go and answer your questions, Fabienne, I just would like to check in with our audience here, and I would like to know how many of you are directly working in partnerships? Oh, that's
all the whole audience.
That's great. I mean, directly, yeah? So Commission colleagues, you don't count, sorry for that. And how many people of you have been, like Wolfgang, 20 years already working in partnerships? Wow, that's quite impressive. Okay, great. So now, that's really good to know that we have like a really well-informed audience here. So I don't need to explain to you what are the energy and the mobility partnerships, but I will just answer now your question, Fabienne, because I guess that's why you invited me here. The Cluster 5 partnerships, of course, they support the green transition, and I would like to highlight 4 specific ways in which these partnerships do it. The first way is that these partnerships develop innovative solutions that reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So specifically in the transport area, for example, we have the Clean Aviation Joint Undertaking that really has set the goal to deliver low carbon aircraft that can enter into service already in 2035. And here the good news is that the Clean Aviation Partnership, like many of them that have predecessors, they continue the work. So there's basically a continuity. I think it's also a bit in line with what you mentioned as well. And that I think is really very, very important, because that really allows us to make progress much faster, to build on the results that already predecessors have delivered. We have César that is delivering on advanced automotive air traffic management tools, also again, not only to enhance the flight efficiency, but also to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We have a zero-emission waterborne transport partnership that is supporting demonstrators to come to a zero-emission shipping by 2030. And then in the road transport, we have the 2-0 partnership that is reducing emissions from the cars, and the CCAM that is looking into the automated and connected mobility. And finally, of course, we have also in the rail area, the Rail Joint Undertaking that has demonstrated the DAC technology that also will not only increase the efficiency of the rail transport, but also reduce emissions through improved logistics. So this is, the first way of contributing to the Green Deal. It's really to develop innovative solutions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Secondly, through our partnerships, we also reduce our energy dependency, and we increase our energy security inside the European Union. For example, through the Clean Hydrogen Partnership, we are stepping up the hydrogen production, including through hydrogen valleys. We have now 67 hydrogen valleys in the European Union. This is a concept that was developed by the predecessor of the Clean Hydrogen Joint Undertaking. And once these hydrogen valleys are up and running, they are able to produce half of the target that we set in Repower EU, namely 10 million tons of production of green hydrogen inside the European Union. But we also increase our energy security, for example, by increasing our production capacity of innovative batteries through the Battery Joint Undertaking. Thirdly, our partnerships in the field of energy and mobility also support our circularity objectives, and thereby we also reduce, of course, our dependency of raw materials. Again, an example of the Hydrogen Joint Undertaking that has mainstreamed circularity across all the calls, and of course the Batteries Partnership as another example that is looking into alternative battery chemistries from the lithium-ion batteries. And fourthly, and I think this is also very important, because the Green Deal is not only about reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, reducing our dependency on the import of raw materials or circularity, it is also about putting the citizens in the center of this transition. And again, there, the mobility and energy partnerships take into account also the citizens dimension. For example, the 2-0 partnership is really looking into user-centric approaches and also the affordability of electric vehicles. And another example is the CCAM partnership that is developing this automated mobility that will eventually not only increase the safety and reduce the accidents on the road, but is also very important, of course, for the older population and the disabled population. And the policy relevance of these energy and mobility partnerships are also illustrated by the fact that Repower EU has given an additional 200 million euros to the Clean Hydrogen Partnership to roll out hydrogen valleys across the European Union. The Batteries Partnership that is directly supporting the implementation with and compliance with the battery regulation, for example, and the Clean Energy Transition Partnership, which we are doing with the member states, which is a co-funded one, which is implemented the European Strategic Energy Technology Plan. So I think all in all, I think we have a really strong and good story to tell about the contribution and the policy relevance of our partnerships, which I also believe is one of the strengths of the partnerships. Now, you asked also about some achievements, and there, I mean, I think in terms of achievements, they are, I think, can be grouped for all partnerships around, you know, the same headings, and we've heard it all before. I mentioned, you know, the clear delivery on European policy objectives, and I think the fact that partnerships have this longer-term strategic research and innovation agenda that has been co-created between the public sector and the private sector really allows us to make sure that the partnership make a meaningful and long-term coherent contribution to our European policy priorities. Significant leverage effect, so, you know, pooling additional resources around these agreed strategic research and innovation agenda. And you mentioned, Wolfgang, an impressive leverage effect. I have also some numbers I can throw at you. I think in the mobility and energy field, the rock star is the zero emission transport, waterborne transport partnership, where we are investing from the Commission side 530 million. And the waterborne industry is throwing into this partnership 3.3 billion with a B. So yeah, I mean, that is the rock star. But I have to say, and I just want to make clear, I mean, I give examples to illustrate, but I think all the partnerships are rock stars. Let's be very clear about that. Now, the third thing that I want to mention next to the contribution to the EU policies, the leverage effect, is the fact that partnerships have kind of like a holistic approach, a value chain approach. And I think this is a very clear benefit compared to the traditional collaborative calls. So for instance, we have this value chain approach in the battery partnership as an example, where we look at the processing of raw materials, the production of batteries, all the way up to the recycling of the batteries. And there we bring also together, you know, the whole ecosystem in one partnership. So it's not only, you know, the battery producers that are in the partnership. And again, I think this story goes for many of them, that we bring together the ecosystem beyond, let's say, the traditional stakeholders. Another example here, which I think is a very important one, and it's a new one compared to the predecessors, is that the Clean Aviation Partnership has brought in the EASA, which is the certification body, as, you know, a partner in the partnership. And the EASA, together with the Clean Aviation Joint Undertaking, developed a concept which is called the certification readiness level, which is extremely important, because if we want to, you know, develop innovative aircraft concepts, they also need to be certified before they can be brought on the market. So the certification readiness level is kind of like a complement to the technological readiness level, and would really allow for an accelerated market entry. And I think this is, you know, the last element that I want to mention in terms of, you know, the achievement of the partnership, is that because of the collaboration between the public and the private sector, we also then accelerate the market uptake in the end, which of course is very important also for the competitiveness, which is a key, you know, priority also for the next mandate. And then I had a whole long list of other achievements, but I think, Fabienne, you want to move on, so I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalinde. We will give the floor to the audience for a couple of questions in a moment. But before we move to these questions from the audience, just thinking, you all mentioned and showed what have been the achievements, the successes, and the impact in your own individual field for your own individual partnership. However, there are different types of partnerships, and the partnerships today that you are leading clearly these partnerships are also of different type, different nature. So thinking back, looking back 20 to the past, at the past 20 years, and thinking about the evolution also of partnerships from ERANETs to co-funded, co-programmed, and also institutionalized partnerships, thinking about these instruments and the collaborations that they create with specific types of actors, what, according to you, thinking about the partnerships in general as instruments, what, according to you, have also been the substantial achievements and the impacts that those different types of partnerships could create during for the past 20 years? Who would like to maybe illustrate or take the floor?
Maybe I will, I may say a few words. So, and please here allow me to bring the hat of the coordinator of the Rare Diseases Partnership, because I think it's really, I think it can be a nice illustration element, is that, so the Rare Diseases Partnership represents today 30 million people living in Europe with a rare disease. It means that actually probably each of you knows somebody with a rare disease, although most of the things that you hear is rare rather than disease. And those people today are, for the 90% of those diseases, there are no treatments at all. There is still about 4 years to be diagnosed in Europe, which means going from one doctor to the other. And then at the end, when they are diagnosed, there is no treatment available, or it's not available in their country. So I think that the impact, and more specifically, because here I represent the co-funded partnership, but I think especially under Horizon Europe, the instrument opened also the new ways of collaboration that also for my community. So I would say that those last 20 years, what they allowed was to start from the simple CSA, coordination and support action, and then the ERANET, among the funders who jointly decided to finance research on rare diseases when there were no programs, no national programs, because usually there is no critical mass that is necessary in the country to actually implement even any kind of research projects on those type of diseases. There are not enough of patients, there is not enough of data, and so on. To move progressively, thanks to the different partnership types of instruments, to a progressive collaboration and integration of the NGOs, patient organizations, patient voice, the European research infrastructures that also integrated the partnerships, the bridging between the research and healthcare by the integration also of the hospitals and healthcare elements, and the connection to the DG Santé and the European Transborder Healthcare Directive, and things that could help also to go from one country to the other to be treated, but also to connect the research community. And finally, now also under Horizon Europe and the Rare Diseases Partnership, to bring on board the industry. So I think that we really were able, through those different instruments, to bring for the rare diseases community, through those partnerships, the platform that allowed on enhancing the rare diseases research, the innovation, and finally giving the platform, the stable and sustainable platform for the rare disease community, so the patient can really see the difference within those 20 years.
Thank you. Would like Rosalinda, please.
Yeah, maybe I can complement very quickly. I mean, I think over the past 20 years, we can see that the partnership, they have reduced fragmentation. And I think that is extremely important, and again, you know, very relevant with the Draghi report that basically calls upon the European Union to reduce this fragmentation. So I think there, you know, over the past 20 years, the partnership have already been playing that role. And in line with what Daria has been saying, I think the fact that we bring together, you know, in particular the public and the private sector, we can accelerate moving from research results to the market. And again, looking now forward, this is of course a very, very important element because it supports the competitiveness of the European Union. So I think there, you know, the partnerships in the past 20 years have been doing things that are still extremely relevant today.
Thank you, Rosalinde. Any other examples?
I just would like to say that all the partnerships from the past to the present and to the future, they really are under the European spirit, because you have to sit together, you have different perspectives, maybe you have the same goals, but you still have to find a way how to best reach them. And again, that's the area where I am. I think in health it's important that you keep in mind not only the challenges to get the things to the patient and into the system, but also that the healthcare systems are not European controlled, let's say it this way. And that's very important. And I think when it comes to the market and competitiveness for Europe, I think health is a bit different. It's about that everybody stays healthy or is healthy and stays healthy, and that's a different thing. There is economic perspective, so I get always mad if they talk in the health arena about ecosystem. I don't like that, because it's not an ecosystem, it's about something else. And the societies and the healthcare systems, they have to deal with the budget they have and to ensure the best possible treatment. So again, I would like to take another perspective on these things when it comes to the health arena, and that's quite challenging. And I also, maybe some critical words as well, I hope you don't mind. They all are now called European partnerships. So they start from these big ones, and I'm impressed by the numbers. The big ones where industry goes in with, I don't know, a couple of billion, and then the Commission gives some money. And that's perfectly fine, and they are a star, as you said. But we also have co-programmed, then we have co-funded, and then we have the EITs, for example. So they all called partnerships, but they all function completely differently. And that is independent of the topic they are working on. So we have to keep this in mind. And the other thing, maybe critical as well a bit, one thing is the European goals, the big strategic goals you have, Green Deal and so on. But take on board, especially for the co-funded partnerships, the national and regional agendas. I think that's important. And to maybe close this, when it comes to healthcare systems, we have some member states where we have regional healthcare systems, and we can learn a lot on the national context from some of these regional healthcare systems, and we should use this opportunity. So I stop.
Thank you. Rosalinde, you would like to complement?
Yeah, let me quickly jump in here, because I fully agree it's really important, and that's why I wanted to, you mentioned the regions, and the good news is that we have really good examples in the area of transport and energy, where the joint undertakings are actually concluding memoranda of collaboration with the regional authorities to also make sure that the regional investments in that particular area are aligned. So we started this in the aviation area, and now also with the hydrogen joint undertaking is concluding memoranda of collaboration with the regions. And next week, I think it is, we also have a co-programmed partnership, the 2.0 partnership that focus on the road transport, that will conclude a memorandum of collaboration with an Italian region. So I think this is really a good way to make sure that you align also the regional priorities with the priorities of the partnerships.
I would like to support it, not so much on a regional level, because we're working on a national level more, but there, I mean, although our history is only 3.5 years old, although it feels like 20 years, the last 3.5 years, it's, I mean, really stimulating to see how the alignment and coordination takes place on a national level between the member states and the funding agency, the ministries, the policy makers, and the community on a national level.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your insights in the past 20 years, and also for the reflections that will certainly also help thinking on the next steps and the future of partnerships as well, because we are indeed at a critical moment of time in preparing also the next steps. I would like, before I also have a last question to close our panel, but before I close the panel, I would like to turn to the audience. If our participants have some questions for our panelists, we have foreseen 10 minutes for the questions. So there is room to ask questions, and we are a bit ahead of schedule, so please.
Hello, my name is Jacob Pazin from the Made in Europe Partnership. I work in this building, so it was easy for me to get down, but unfortunately next year we cannot organize events here anymore, so we will find another place. So my question, or I have a comment and a question. I like the vibe of this partnership assembly meeting. I think, you know, as it was said, you know, there are different types of partnerships, but somehow through these meetings, I think we are getting closer together, which is good. Because since you could also argue some years ago there was a bit of competition between partnerships, etc., etc. But I think thanks to these meetings, we work together, we go in one direction. And since we are working together and since we are all looking to FP10, I have one topic to be discussed. You know, looking at the FP10 discussion and these media echoing on FP10, I see that the ERC and the EIC gets a lot of attention. And it's because they created these high-level groups with big names in it, and then it's not the commission saying something, but this professor who's the chairman of this ERC, so-and-so. And somehow in the Pillar 2, which is for me the core of the framework program, and that's where it all started. So for me, the Pillar 2 is the core, and then we have here ERC and EIC. But somehow they managed to grab more attention. So in EFRA, that's our homework, how to get the attention back to Pillar 2, to collaborative research. And I think a lot of us would share this, this worry. So, you know, and so I think we all need to be vocal to sell the partnerships. And I think it was great that the commissioner was here this morning, that she knows and the cabinet people know, wow, there are so many people interested in partnerships. Then there's the HITO report, which suggested a technology council. You know, I think if we debate it, whether we are in favor or not, I don't know, but just the debate what to do with this will help us to push the Pillar 2 a bit in the center of attention. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. I guess it was an over comment, but if one of you would like to react, please.
Yeah, maybe, I mean, I understand your concerns, and I also take away, and we just started, we still have 1.5 days to go, but I mean, what I take away from, you know, the start here is that even though, you know, there's quite some diversity, there are different types of partnerships, I do feel that we have a common story to tell as well about the achievement of the partnerships. So, I mean, just to pick on, you know, your statement, you know, maybe we should be a bit vocal and talk about it. I mean, I do think that there is a common story to tell that is quite convincing. So, and I'm sure that as we go on, this common story will become even more strong.
Thank you.
Okay.
Please.
My name is Malin Eklund. I'm working at Sweden's Innovation Agency in this part of Personalized Medicine Partnership, but also others. So a question I have for reflection moving forward is, as we've heard, we have different kinds of partnerships that are called partnerships, but they do have very different flavors, right? So being involved in health, mainly co-funded partnerships, even though we do have the IHI, of course, but I've also been involved in the battery partnership, which was then co-programmed, where the direction and sort of suggestions for priorities is then invested from a EU budget. So looking at, you know, the partnership map, you can see that more soft, not so hardcore industry-driven topics are more co-funded, and maybe the more industry-driven are more co-programmed, where the majority of the money comes from perhaps the Commission. Reflecting on that, what can we learn moving forward when we choose the type of instrument for a different specific purpose? Maybe there's something to reflect here so that we don't build in, you know, things we've done before, that we focus on the purpose and selecting the right tool, the right way to invest in order to receive impact. So I would really like to hear your reflections on how we can improve.
Thank you for your question, which is indeed very relevant for the time where we are now in launching our reflections for the future. This will also be part of our discussion tomorrow. But if already one of our panelists would like to react to this proposal, to think about elements, issues that we need to take into account in order also to improve things in the next framework program, and also even currently for the ongoing partnerships, please, if one of you would like to take the floor. Daria, please.
If I may, well, obviously it's, I feel responsible, you know, for responding also to this because of the fact that the expert group, the Commission expert group that I was chairing, also developed, I would say, a start of a, let's say, of a methodology that could be used also to take into account the different elements that should be considered when thinking about programming and also choosing the future partnerships. So it's, we clearly indicated that it's important to take the scientific foresight and technological dimension, but also the characteristics of different types of partnerships and the level of the maturity of the community or of the commitment and willingness in terms of the strategic choices that are important to be able to then choose the most relevant instrument. For that, obviously, you need to understand what is there, how it functions, and what is the best the best tool to be used to be the most efficient one. So I think that this is something that is progressively also integrated in the thinking. This morning we discussed about the partnership. I mean, at the Partnership Knowledge Hub, about the strategy or the recommendations for the framework program 10 and so on. So I think that we need some more development of this kind of tools, but I think that it has to be a joint effort between the member states and the Commission to think how strategically use those different instruments and then use the best ones. And there are some tools that can be helpful to accompany the policymakers in this process.
Thank you. Rosalinde, but also Wolfgang.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, maybe just from the energy and mobility partnerships, it's true. I mean, we have joint undertakings, co-funded and co-programmed partnerships in these sectors. But what I do feel is that even if you would have, for instance, a joint undertaking, there's a state representative group where, you know, the member states are. And you also see that in some of the co-programmed partnerships, there are public authorities that are, you know, member of the partnership. So I do feel that the partnerships, at least in the energy and mobility sector, you know, are very successful in bringing together both the public and the private side, even though there is still this distinction between the different types of partnerships. And I think what is really very, very important looking in the future is to continue to reduce the fragmentation and to, even more than in the past, maybe try to bring, you know, both the member states, the industry and the EU level together around commonly agreed strategic research and innovation agendas, because competitiveness will be very important. And I was actually a few weeks ago at the SETPlan conference, the Strategic Energy Technology Conference, which was opened by the Hungarian minister, and he made a very simple, but it stuck with me, point. He said, we should, as a European Union, not see each other as competitors, but we should be working together, benefiting also from the relative strength that we have in the European Union, and work together as a bloc, as a team Europe, you know, in the global context.
Thank you. Mr. Ballenzeven, you wanted also to add and to answer to the question.
Shortly comment. It's not easy to answer the question. I think it's depending on how the partnership started. Most of the partnerships don't start from scratch. Some did because there was an interest from member states, more seldom, or the interest of the Commission and the European Union. But also it's depending on the topic. Again, the topics you kind of presented are different, so that you need definitely industry on board. And when we go in the health arena, we might be hesitant, at least in the beginning, to have industry on board due to certain reasons. But the thing I wanted to say is that independent of how a partnership developed, I think the good thing about it is that they should be flexible, they should be open, and most of them last at least 7 years. Some have several grant agreements, pity them. But I think we have the time to adapt where it makes sense and needed, and where the partners already joining agree on that. I have to say that for some topics, again, it might be tricky because there's a conflict of interest. Then you have this, you know this because most of you are involved in partnerships, firewalls, you have intrinsic calls, these kind of things. You really have to make sure that you don't run in more complexity than needed. But I agree, when you really want to be successful, in the end, you need the private sector somehow attached or on board. Just my thoughts.
Thank you. Is there another question from the audience? Yes, I see a hand raised there.
Me, Rela Atanasiu, head of unit in the Clean Hydrogen Partnership. I just want to add and to comment to the achievements, if you want, of the partnership, because indeed, thank you very much, Rosalinda, for supporting us in the Cluster 5. But I think I also want to mention, in terms of achievement, the synergies between the different partnerships. And I think we work from the beginning, especially in this Horizon Europe time of the program, in this program, at least to align our roadmaps, our SRIAs, to work together, because you gave the example of 2035 hydrogen plane, in fact, that we work together with our colleagues in the Clean Aviation GU, as an example. Or maybe, for example, the synergies that we are developing now with the regions within the context of the hydrogen valleys. So I just wanted to, because we may leave the room with the wrong impression that we are too many. And I think we are many for a reason. And I think being too many is not necessarily bad. Because, like I said, at least our experience shows to us we are complementary to each other and we can work together. And like I said, we have proven that already in this program, when I can continue to give you examples. And that would be in terms of achievements. And I finish my intervention with some reflections also for the next framework program, that in doing that, we also learned that the framework program, it's not very flexible. It's not very flexible when we talk about rules, about the grants, the rules of the grants, because we mainly implement grants in Horizon Europe. And when we talk about, for example, synergies with regions, and we talk with the managing authorities, with the regional authorities, I think we still have to work, and I would like, as a reflection, to bring it on the table, and I know we have some discussions tomorrow on that, but I think we should also reflect into that direction, that if we want synergies with local authorities, I think we should also look at, can we afford to do that? Are our instruments able to do that? Because we find ourselves a bit stuck, at least for Horizon Europe, and I think in FP10 we should work a bit on that to foster these collaborations and synergies. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment and also your reflections and thoughts for the future. Any reaction or? Okay, then I think we still have time for one additional question. So if someone in the audience would like to take the floor, please do so. I do not yet see any hand raised, so I would then turn back to the panelists and ask one last question to all of you. We are discussing here the past 20 years and the achievements with examples through your partnerships of the successes and the impact that has been achieved. We talked about also the evolution of the partnerships in the past 20 years. We will also have, after our break, we will have other occasions to discuss the successes in dedicated parallel sessions and to talk about the achievements. But for my last question, if you had to pick one key lesson learned from the 20 years of partnerships, what would it be, according to you? And also, what do you believe the next 20 years hold for European partnerships, which is also transition for the future and our future reflections tomorrow? So who would like to start?
Yeah, I think we had a very painful process from reducing almost 200 aeronets to 50-something partnerships, with some extra coming. So I agree what you just said and what was said before as well. That was really a painful process. But I think the partnerships existing now in the different areas, they just start to kind of get their head up and look into the future, and they just start how they can communicate and cooperate in their cluster first, and maybe topic-wise, and then maybe across the clusters as well, because I can see artificial intelligence, machine learning, these kind of things, they can have a very strong, hopefully very good impact on personalized medicine, for example. So that's the thing. So they work. They are true European spirit endeavors. I think that this is pretty clear. They support European ideas and aims and goals, but also from the member states. So I think they're really good. So but that's connected for my future perspective. For example, a drug in the health arena, it takes usually between 8 and 10 years before you have the research done, and then you really have a benefit for the patient. So give the partnerships which are existing now some time with clear rules and regulations and support, that they really can develop their speed, they can develop their impact. I'm very optimistic that with the setting we have at the moment, much more budget, more impact perspective, that they will achieve even double, if not 3 times the things which have been achieved in the last 20 years. So that was my impression. I might not be active in the next 10 years or 20 years, but that is really my belief. But don't change the rules too much. Try to do the administration as simple as possible. It will never be really simple, but that's the way it is. But as simply as possible and fair across the different types of partnerships.
Thank you for these comments and reflections. Ms. Gusenheimer.
Yeah, I would actually like to support the flexibility argument, because what we have learned is that, I mean, we are not in charge basically of the project management, because that's RIA in our case. And what we learn is that, I mean, actually we're so fast-paced in the overall evolution of EOSC and now creating the EOSC Federation as a distributed infrastructure, that the projects and their results are lagging behind. And there's no mechanism in the system built in that would allow the projects to better collaborate. Yes, they can always do that voluntarily, but we cannot adjust the grant agreements that RIA is having with them, and we cannot build them in, let's say, strategically and legally into the system. So it's all based on voluntary collaboration, and what might be right at the time when the call were drafted, the results might not be relevant anymore when they are delivered. And that is a huge thing that I think that needs to be addressed going forward, because otherwise we will not maximize the potential that's in the project work.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe
Rosalinde.
to share, I mean, of course, there are many lessons learned, but I mean, I will just share 2 of them. I think the first lesson learned is that the partnerships have played a crucial role to reduce the fragmentation and, you know, to bringing together investments around a commonly agreed strategic research innovation agenda. And the second lesson learned, at least for the energy and mobility part, is that it is really important to collaborate with the industry to make sure that we connect the research also in the end with bringing results to the market. And I think looking forward, maybe 4 quick points, and they have been mentioned, most of them before. I think the first one, we also heard it from the Commissioner, simplification. I think there's really scope to simplify. I think the second point, flexibility. I think we need to increase the flexibility for collaboration with different partners. The third point, I think, is that it also building on, you know, the advice from the wise men like Mr. Draghi. I think we need to really see where we can focus on, you know, the strategic strength of the European Union, so that we make sure that the partnerships are also, you know, focusing maybe with a challenge-based or portfolio approach, where we can really deliver on, you know, the strength, including on the competitiveness strength of the European Union. And the last point linked to that, and again, I'm speaking for the Energy and Mobility Department, in my view, I think we need to really start also accelerating deployment. We have great demonstrators developed, but we need to make sure that they also then reach the market.
Thank you, Rosalinde. Daria, we would like to
maybe
close.
Well, I would say that we spent 20 years on practicing different instruments, improving things, and so on. And I think that most of the time, when we think of it, and the comments like, okay, what we focus on, or what we do not want to have at the end the impression that there are too many partnerships. What I would like also to say is that we do not want to have, I would like not to have the impression that those 20 years were, you know, lost for nothing, and that this did not lead us to anywhere. Because when I compare, for example, and discuss with my colleagues from the other side of the ocean about what we managed to achieve and how complex at the end it is, because we are all from all different countries, but at the end we speak a joint common voice and are able to come to some fantastic results. And I think that the partnerships are a demonstration for why the European research area and why EU actually exists. We demonstrate the power of the EU through the partnerships. So I would like to say is that let's, to the policymakers, let's empower the partnerships, let's give them the necessary flexibility and the capacity to also demonstrate, and to the partnerships, let's demonstrate that we achieve what we promised to achieve.
Thank you. Many reflections for the Commission, for the policymakers at national level, and also for the partnerships themselves. So many thanks for these reflections. Many thanks also for having given us the insights in your partnerships, in your relevant sectors. There is a last question. But
hello, hi, Karim Hassan from the Catalonia region. Thank you also to the panel. I've spoken, except for Fabienne and Wolfgang, to all of the panelists at some point or other. I work for Catalonia. It's a privilege. It's a very dynamic region, but I'm not Catalan. So shout out to the Catalans, because they're very pragmatic, and when they see an opportunity, they go for it, and if they don't see it, they don't go for it. I realize the discourse is very complex, but on a more practical level, can the panel share outlooks for today and tomorrow on concrete actions and tools that will simplify the grant process across the board? Because we don't know what's happening tomorrow, but we know that the grant mechanism is complicated. Now, there's the Horizon results platform, the booster, all of these things, and then we hear about AI and we're scared about it. But what is in the pipeline just to make it easier for my Catalan companies and stakeholders to go and say, oh, I'd like to do an EU project? Thank you.
I will take this. Yeah. Thank you for your question, and very relevant indeed, because it also links to the implementation of our partnerships, and also to improving the implementation of our partnerships in the future. You mentioned the contracts, the implementation means. First of all, for the ongoing partnerships, I believe there are a number of tools, a number of meetings, a number of guidelines, and also discussions that help improving the implementation of the partnerships that are currently in place, or that are being developed for the remaining 2 years of our Horizon work program. In relation to what what will be done in the future and how this will materialize in the future, we are currently living with the framework that we have under Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe, we are reflecting, we have kick-started, and it is not only at the level of the Commission, but it's also at the level of the member states, of the associated countries, partnerships themselves, since they have a long duration in time. Partnerships themselves also reflect about the future. And since we have the midterm process that is also ongoing for the Horizon Europe partnerships, these reflections will gather, of course, a number of ideas, a number of hopefully solutions for the improvement of potential hurdles and obstacles that partnerships face in their implementation. But I believe that to tell you exactly now what will be changed, it is much too early. And we are precisely also organizing panel discussions tomorrow, workshops, and there will be also other discussion fora that will be there in order to share experience, in order to share also the lessons learned, in order to define precisely what will be done in the future. So that is where we are currently now, but for sure, if those elements can be shared starting from our conference today and tomorrow, that's already great, and we will certainly increase and speed up also the reflections in the coming months. So keep an eye on that, and we are welcoming any idea, of course. And there are also, if you look also on our websites, there are a number of position papers already that are published to prepare the future. So many thanks also for this insight. I guess we are also at the end of our panel discussion. I would like to thank you for your interventions and sharing with us your experience and your thoughts. A big applause to our panelists today. We will now have a coffee break, and then you will be able to reach the different rooms for the individual workshop sessions, where you will have the possibility to precisely exchange your views, discuss on certain topics. So looking forward to these discussions, and enjoy your coffee. And many thanks for your attention during our panel discussion. Thank you.